And now, marine weather around Alaska.
And hello everyone, and thanks for joining us for this Tuesday's Marine Forecast segment. Up first, we'll look at tonight's weather. Next strong low tracking eastward from the east central Aleutians in toward False Pass here, either side of the peninsula or the islands. Front pushing gale force winds and rain up across the Kuskokwim Delta into the southern Yukon Delta. Wet windy conditions for the Pribilofs. Gale force winds, possible storm force winds in toward Kodiak Island and Bristol Bay. Dry in the interior and lighter winds, and also much lighter winds and much drier for the eastern North Gulf Coast, Copper River Basin, and the northern Panhandle as that low tracks off to the northeast quite rapidly. And then for tomorrow, this front pushes eastward. Strong winds and rain here for the North Gulf Coast. And that pushes in toward the southeast coast in the afternoon with wet, windy conditions here as this low tracks eastward along the Alaska Peninsula. Look for strong northwest winds, west-northwesterlies here for the eastern Aleutians, possibly over 50 miles an hour in gusts. Now be spreading into the western Alaska Peninsula late in the day. And then for the Thursday outlook, low weakens as it tracks to just south of Prince William Sound there. But this westerly flow turning southwest picks up a lot of moisture off the Pacific, and that means rain and wind for the southeast coast. And a lot of rain, but less wind for the North Gulf Coast. Dry over the central and northern interior. And a weak system out here to the west actually tracks eastward here quite rapidly and starts to develop on Friday. And another trough keeps showers and rain going for the southeast coast, but less wind and pretty showery, unsettled conditions here for the Kenai Peninsula, Prince William Sound area, and a low up near Seward Peninsula with some rain and snow showers into the west and southwest interior. And then for Saturday morning, this low deepens and moves up west of the Queen Charlottes, and Saturday night should track right over the Queen Charlotte Islands. That will spread rain and wind across all the panhandle, at least push enough moisture up where you should get precipitation all the way up to the border. A trough with unsettled conditions south central Alaska. This low near the Bering Strait will actually track westward Saturday night. And next big storm out here forecast to move to about Atka Island by Saturday night and into Sunday. So it looks like a pretty wet start, or pretty wet Sunday coming up there for the southeast coast. And for the coastal water forecast here for the Panhandle, we've got storm warnings for east winds of 50 knots on the north coast and east-southeast winds 35 knots. Gale warnings there for the central coast and southeast at 25. For Prince of Wales Island, much lighter over the inside waters tomorrow, southeast at 15 for Stevens Passage and Lynn Canal, north winds at 10 knots for Clarence Strait. And then for the Thursday outlook, small craft advisories here for the south coast, west-southwest winds 25 knots, seas 20 feet, and south to southeast winds for the north coast at 20 knots, with seas up to 18 feet. And for Lynn Canal, south winds 30 knots, seas 6 feet, south at 20 for Stevens Passage and Clarence Strait. Prince William Sound tomorrow, gale warnings, east winds 40 knots, 9-foot seas. Gale warnings for Cook Inlet, northeast winds 35 to 40 knots, and storm warnings for Kamishak Bay and the Barren Islands, east winds of 50 knots. Storm warnings for the North Gulf Coast as well, east winds 45 to 55 knots with seas up to 14 feet. And then for Thursday, lighter winds now for Prince William Sound, east-northeast at 20 knots, seas subsiding to 4 feet. For the North Gulf Coast, 20-knot winds out of the west and south with 12 to 14-foot seas. Western North Gulf Coast, northwest at 25 and west 25 for Kamishak Bay and the Barren Islands, northwest at 30 knots. Lighter winds in Cook Inlet from what you'll see on Wednesday, west-northwest at 15 to 20 knots. And for Kodiak Island, gale warnings tomorrow, east winds 35 to 40 knots, seas up to 13 feet in the Alaska Peninsula. On the Bering Sea side, lighter winds, east-northeast at 20. Pacific side, southeast and northeast winds 25 to 30 knots, and good gales in Bristol Bay, east wind 40 knots, seas 7 feet. And for Bristol Bay on Thursday, winds west at 30 knots, seas 14 feet. Minimum gales here for the Alaska Peninsula into Kodiak Island, all out of the west at 35 knots, with seas running anywhere from 9 to 17 feet. And for the eastern Aleutians tomorrow, west-northwest winds 35 to 40 knots, northwest at 30 knots for Adak and Atka. Amchitka Island, northwest 20 to 25, and from Kiska to Shemya, west-northwest 15 to 20 with 8 to 9 foot seas. And for Thursday, for Shemya to Kiska, west-northwest winds at 20 knots, or actually north-northwest at 20, and north to northeast winds from Chitka Island at 15 to 20 knots, Adak and Atka, east-northeast at 20, and west-southwest winds 20 to 30 knots for the Fox Islands with seas 10 to 12 feet. And for the southwest coast, gale warnings here south of Nunivak Island tomorrow. Winds right out of the east at 35 knots, north at 30 knots for the Pribilof, seas about 12 feet there. North at 25 for St. Matthew Island and the Yukon Delta coast, east winds 25 knots. East at 25 up there in Norton Sound and St. Lawrence Island, east winds at 20 knots, seas only 3 feet. And then for Thursday, St. Lawrence Island, 3 foot seas, northwest at 20, Norton Sound, north at 15, and small craft advisories here for northwest winds at 25 knots along the southwest coast. And out in the Bering Sea, Pribilof, St. George, St. Paul, and St. Matthew Island looking at 25 knot westerly winds with 10 foot seas. And for the Arctic coast tomorrow, winds mostly out of the south at about 10 knots with seas running 2 to 4 feet. And the Chukchi Sea, south to southeast, winds 15 to 20 knots with 2 to 4 foot seas. And for Thursday, winds become northeast here at about 15 to 20 knots for the Chukchi Sea with 3 to 5 foot seas. Northeast at 20 knots for the western Arctic coast, and small craft advisories for the central and eastern Beaufort Sea coast for winds out of the east at 25 to 30 knots with seas up to 9 feet.